What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Fearless back at you with another Ableton tutorial. So today we're going to take a look at the hidden plugin Drum Bus, which is the secret to getting your drums to knock in Ableton. Alright, so let's jump right into this. So if you go into your audio effects, you'll notice Drum Bus is right here. Drum Bus is good for adding different transients to your drums, adding some distortion to them, making them sound bigger and fatter, and it can just be used in a range of different ways. So one way right off the bat that you can use it is if you want to put it on your master channel. You don't even have to use a clipper. You could use your Drum Bus instead. So go ahead and throw your little Drum Bus on there, and it actually won't allow it to peak over 0 dB. So you can use it as a mastering plugin. Okay, so you'll see right here I have this on my pre-master channel, which actually routes everything to my master. So you'll notice that once we have the Drum Bus on here, it will not peak over 0 dB. But as soon as we turn it off, it's out of this world, right? So that's really nice about the Drum Bus. Now you're going to go ahead and tweak all these settings so that it's not sounding as distorted and crazy as I'm doing. Because if you're putting it on the whole thing as a master, you're going to want some very, very subtle effects. So I'd probably start with putting the dampness all the way down here. That's just saying, okay, it's not going to cut out any of the high frequencies, which we don't want it to do. If you want to do that, I would go ahead and put an EQ on there and cut the frequencies out there. I wouldn't do it with the Drum Bus, so go ahead and make sure that that's all the way in. So the frequency knob right here is basically what frequency are you targeting in your drums. So if you were putting this on your kick, you could see what note your kick was in. Maybe your kick was in a C. So you could use like 65.2 if you were trying to dial in that C note and add a little more sub range. Maybe you put some of the boom in here, which is trying to add some sub harmonics to your kick if that's what you were looking to do. Alright guys, so you basically have these three choices here, right? The boomy one pretty much is going to try to add some sub harmonics to it, make it sound a little crunched in that area. The crunch is a different kind of distortion. So basically these are all different kinds of distortions that you can use. And you get a little bit of a different sound from each one. So you got to play with them and see which one you like the most, or you can do a little bit of each. And then right here you got the soft, medium, and hard. And this is basically saying how much of that distortion are you applying to it. So if you have the hard distortion one set on here and you start turning up one of these distortion things, it's going to send a lot of distortion through it. Versus a softer one, which is going to give it a more subtle distortion feel. So basically, you're just going to have to play through these and see which one you like the most. So let's take a look really quick. So that's kind of hard. Let's go for medium now. And soft. So you can see the difference between all three of them. And yes, these three knobs will affect each of these different distortions that you can go ahead and put on your drums. This trim feature right here is really nice because basically it allows you to back off some of the dBs. So basically, it's not peaking on us right now, but we know that it's probably peaking at right around 8.5 dBs. So we could actually back this off a little bit more than that if we didn't want it to push everything up that high. So we can go ahead and trim it that way. Otherwise, if we want to make sure that everything's kind of pushed together more evenly, we could even put this up a little bit more. Then we put it up to 0 and it's basically squishing it all up there. Alright, so you also have a compression option here as well. I would not use this if I were you. You can use it if you'd like, but the whole reasoning why I don't like to use it is because you don't have any control over the compression. You're basically just flipping a switch and trusting that it's doing what you want, which is never really a good thing. So I always just leave that off. If you want some compression on your drums, go add the compression separately and then you can dial it into exactly what you want. So next we're going to talk about some of the different transients, but I'm going to go ahead and take this off my master now. We can try this on a different thing. So let's put it on our kick and see how that's starting to sound. So as we increase the transients on our kick, it's going to start to sound like this. So it almost makes it sound more clicky when we turn it to the right. Now if we turn it to the left, it almost makes it sound more subby. So basically it's kind of changing the transients to a more subby, to a more clicky feel depending on which way you go. So if you wanted your kick to sound a little more subby in the transient range, you could do something like that. If you want it to be a little more clicky, have more of the high transients focused on, you would go up a little more. Maybe we back off the drive a little bit. Maybe we could even add some boominess. So we know we're at a C right now, so maybe we can target that C here. You can pretty much make your kick into an 808 just by turning that boom all the way up. Let's listen to this. So there you go. If you want to make your own 808s, you could use a kick to make your own 808s just by messing with this plugin. Let's turn it back down though for something that we might actually use in a beat. So I'd probably only use maybe a little bit, maybe yeah, somewhere around like 5 to 10. We can mess with the different settings here and see if the harder one would sound any better. But I think the soft sound's the best since we already have a punchy kick, right? We don't need to add too much crazy distortion to it. So now we can play with the crunch and maybe we can add even more distortion in that area. One thing I forgot is don't forget, let's turn this damp all the way up. We don't want to cut out any highs from our drums. If we're going to cut out the highs, we might as well just use an EQ to do that. So let's play with the crunch a little bit. I think that sounds really good, right about the 20% there. Anything more would just sound crazy. So let's hear it before. And then after. So it definitely adds a lot more thump to it, a lot more body, and just a lot more frequency in general. And don't forget that there's also a dry and wet knob over here. So if you like how that's sounding, but it's just too much of an effect, you can go ahead and back it off a little bit. So that sounds even better to me, backing it off, 30%. So now we're at about a 69, 70-ish range. Let's hear what it would sound like in the mix. Versus this. So if you wanted your kick to stand out more, you could definitely use the drum bus on that. So if you have your drums all together like this, what I usually do is I get all my drums together. I highlight them by holding down Shift or Command and selecting all of them. And then you press Command G to group them into a group. And then you can put the drum bus right on that group there. All right, so without it, now put it on. Add a little crunch. Probably lay off on the boom. Put that damp all the way up. All right, so we can now use this trim knob because we know what the volume level was on our drums before, because we can look right here. Okay, so the highest thing that we're reaching is a 0.85. So let's turn this on. Right, and now it's hitting up to all the way up to 0. So it's basically peaking. So if we want to put it back down to what it was at before, we could get that with the trim knob here. All right, so that's pretty close, 0.79. We could go down a little bit more and mess with that, but so that's how you would do that there. If you want to go ahead and gain stage and make sure that it's always the same level, you can do that. So we can actually listen to it before and after. All right, so we actually didn't add any dBs to that. That's just purely distortion and making it sound louder that way. Alright guys, so that's a bunch of different ways that you can use Ableton's drum bus on your drums to make them fatter and sound better and put some nice distortion on them. So as you can see, you could use that on your master channel. You could group all your drums together and put it on the group. You could do individual drums like we did on the kick. So you basically can use this in all different kinds of ways. Alright, so if you like this video, hit that like button for me and subscribe if you're new to the channel, bruh. We be uploading new tutorials like this every single week, all the freaking time. But anyways, I'll be seeing you guys again in the next one. Peace out.